The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes. Good morning, you guys. It is Tuesday, September 23rd. And today is National Teal Talk Day. I see you got the memo and you're wearing teal, Todd.
Yes. I didn't get the memo, but I'm wearing teal.
Interesting.
I have a light blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
not really
teal.
a teal.
It's teal. It looks teal to me, bro.
Well, of course it does.
Oh man. It's also National Great American Pot Pie Day today.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And it is also, you're gonna love this, Todd. This might be your favorite of all. It's National Snack Stick Day. Snack stick. I guess like snap into a Slim Jim kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is. I'm sure why you think that'd be my favorite, but
you know.
Snack stick.
Mm-hmm. It's also Restless.
Meat stick.
Yeah, meat sticks. Yeah. You know, I think it would probably also work for cheese sticks. You know what I mean? Seeing as how Yarrow's here now.
Speed sticks.
Yeah.
But a speed stick.
No, that's deodorant, Todd.
Oh,
It's very, very different.
I mean, I'm down for a cheese stick. I think when you said meat stick, I took it the wrong way, and I thought you were trying to take this show off course really early.
No.
But I'm glad that you pulled the joystick up on the Cessna.
Yes.
We avoided crashing into the side of the disgusting mountain early in the morning before people went.
Early.
I think breakfast is best on a plate, but I guess those are my traditional values.
What about paper plates, Yarrow? Are those still plates?
If you recycle them.
Recycle? Really? How do you recycle a paper plate?
Like, you can put those nasty ones in the compost. They just decompose.
Ridiculous.
Is it though?
Yeah, it is.
I think America gets great again by composting more.
I don't know.
I agree with that one.
I don't know about all that. I think that's a bunch of hoot.
I'd say your president is composting on live TV most of the time.
That's for sure.
That was a great voice you threw in there, Yarrow. That was cute. It's also Restless Legs Awareness Day. You guys get restless legs? They start jumping around?
No.
Oh, I have a particular part of my foot that if I hit it, it's just going. And sometimes I don't even notice it. Interesting. It's also Celebrate BiSexuality Day.
Boom.
That should be every day. That should be every day.
Mm-hmm. Innergize Day and National Checkers and Dogs in Politics Day today, you guys.
Wait. Does Trump know that it's National Bisexual Day? Isn't he going to cancel that?
Right.
Maybe I'll make sure I let him know, Todd. You know, maybe we'll have to strike that one from the record. Yeah. Yeah.
If bi means a 2-year-old, then he's all for it.
Oh, easy
That's
there.
right. That's,
Easy
That's
there.
a really good point.
Easy
That's a
there.
really good point.
Easy there with all that ridiculousness. Anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And today, you guys, we're going to kick it off with Republican lawmakers look to close a THC loophole. I don't know why they keep referring to this as a THC loophole. It's such bullshit, but whatever. A group,
they're Republicans.
Stop it, Todd. A group of Republican lawmakers are proposing legislation to close what they call a THC loophole in Wisconsin's hemp laws, partly citing an incident last year when 85 people ate contaminated pizza in Stoughton. The proposed bill, we actually covered that story when that happened. That was a pretty funny story, the shared kitchen. The proposed bill would redefine what constitutes legal hemp and a plant in the same family as marijuana and eliminate hemp-derived products like gummies, vapes, and drinks that can have psychoactive effects from the market. This bill closes the loophole by what they say redefining hemp to include total THC, including both Delta-9 THC and THCA, clarifying that only hemp grown for specified industrial or research purposes qualifies as industrial hemp. Interesting. Excluding non-industrial hemp-derived cannabinoid products intended for human or animal use from the legal definition of hemp if they contain synthetic or lab-made cannabinoids, if they include non-naturally occurring cannabinoids, or have THC or THC-like intoxicating compounds or are marketed as having such effects. Representative Lindy Brill, Republican from Sheboygan Falls, the bill's lead author, said the legislation targets a loophole created by Wisconsin Act 100 in 2017. In a quote, "That bill's original intent was to allow for industrial hemp," she said. "That loophole has now allowed for the proliferation of the THC-derived products to be sold in our state and federally." The legislation would still allow hemp to be used for fiber, textiles, and paper products, maintaining what Brill describes as the original intent of hemp legalization. And the proposed changes face opposition from business owners in the hemp industry, and Brooke Bartles, who is preparing to open another location of Madison Extracts dispensary near the state capitol, said the legislation could devastate the industry. "It's going to put legitimate businesses out of order," Bartles said. "It would completely handicap an industry that is generating incomes, jobs, rentals, spaces. It's foolish." But Bartles said his business currently operates under only USDA regulations and argues that proper regulation rather than an outright ban would better address safety concerns. "Banning THC outright isn't going to solve this problem. It's going to just force another black market surge," Bartles said. "We're surrounded by states that regulate all of these products, and we're just dragging our feet and falling behind it all." Representative Brill defended the legislation, arguing that the hemp industry developed through an unintended legal loophole rather than a deliberate policy. And in a quote, they say, "This market was created because of a loophole, and that was a chance that businesses took when they opened their businesses," Brill said. The legislation remains in its early stages, and he's currently circulating it for co-sponsorship among lawmakers, you guys. Interesting. I don't call it a loophole. I think that's total ridiculousness. I do believe that was the intent to bring about this industry, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, it's definitely a loophole because nobody really, as they were creating these laws, why didn't they regulate THCA? Why didn't they regulate, only Delta-9?
Because THCA doesn't get you high, Todd.
Well, it does when you light it on fire.
THCA does not get you high. No, not until you decarboxylate it. Not until you decarboxylate it.
Pizzagate pedophiles don't have a warm enough body core temperature to get it up to a THCA up to a high enough temperature to actually have a psychotropic effect.
Easy there.
The rest of us can get high on THCA. We know how to operate our lighters, our dab rigs, our matches.
So you can you get high without THC? Can you get high on THCA without a lighter or a torch?
What I can't do is get high
heat
without
source?
friends.
Cute.
Allegedly, people will also.
You're not getting high anymore?
Gummies.
Yeah, well, Yarrow has now turned this conversation into a conspiracy now because there's 3 or more talking about THCA getting high.
I mean, Jason, I think it is important to acknowledge that the reason why they're using the word loophole repeatedly. First of all, Todd, I think you're going to need to do better at your partisan swipes, because I think calling it a loophole is a nonpartisan description of what's happened. If we were to really take a step back, I mean, I like to get my jabs in because I want to see Jason feebly react to the things I say. But I think that I think we could agree from a bipartisan kumbaya perspective that it is a loophole. And the reason why it's a loophole is because we do not believe that the framers of the 2018 Farm Bill meant to allow for intoxicating cannabinoids derived from hemp to be allowed into the supply chain in a way that wasn't age gated, right? So, like, I think we should all be able to agree on that. And every single time we see a state trying to solve for the fact that that federal bill hasn't been updated in 7 years, we're going to see a patching effect. It's like trying to put a hole on a flat tire on a bicycle. It's not really the same as just having some relief on a federal level and at least indicating what is permissible under the Farm Bill. Is that industrial hemp? Is it fiber? Is it CBD for bath bombs? Or can we just sell 10,000 milligram edibles at a gas station to anybody who has $5?
I have a big problem with this bill. Big problem.
Shocking.
Because it says in here, it says it's excluding non-industrial hemp-derived cannabinoid products intended for human or animal use from the legal definition of hemp if they contain synthetic or lab-made cannabinoids. And I just feel like this is just opening the door for products like spice and all of that other type of stuff. Spray
None of that
packs.
has cannabinoids. Ace doesn't have cannabinoids.
All they have to do. My point of it is this: is that all that they have to do is manipulate some cannabinoids, and all of a sudden these non-psychoactive cannabinoids are going to get you psychoactively high, and they're going to say that it's a man-made cannabinoid, and so therefore it would be exempt. And so this bill doesn't stop the problem of what is ultimately going to happen if this was to go into effect. That's my point.
Well, I think if I could for a second, it's not that it doesn't stop the problem that's going to happen. It doesn't stop the problem that currently exists. Right. So
well, it's
what you're
still
saying
not.
Is it doesn't fix the loophole that currently exists.
It makes a new one. It makes an even bigger loophole that could possibly be even more dangerous because these are going to be synthetic derivatives as opposed to natural derivatives.
What do you think they are now? What do you think they're doing
natural,
in a lab
Todd.
right now with THCA?
That's all natural, bro. That's plant
No, the vast
that.
majority of it is not made from other liquor. The vast majority of it is a secondary extraction process. That
Of course.
Okay. Let's all be clear and go back to the definition of hemp first. Okay, if they didn't intend these things,
I'm with you, Mark.
Narrow. It clearly says any part of the plant, including the seeds, all derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with the delta 9 THC concentration of not more than 0.3%. So it's pretty clear that the hemp bill did include all those things. It's not a loophole. It's like, hey, we didn't know that they were going to do this, so it's a loophole, even though the definition clearly says that it's all legal. That's what's going on. They don't like it, and they're calling it something that it's not, because the definition clearly includes acids separate and apart from delta 9. So I can't get this loophole thing. It's a bunch of BS. And they're just trying to say, we screwed up. We didn't know what the hell we were doing when we wrote this law. And this is the repercussions of it. And now we're going to try to destroy businesses that were doing this under this law for the past 7 years, who have created tens of thousands of jobs, who have shown that THC and cannabis can be sold legally to anyone 21 plus throughout this country without a problem. It doesn't have to be in these double-gated specialty shops. That's really what this has done. And they're just trying to, I think, in most situations, protect any sort of legal cannabis businesses who are now coming after this. All they have to do is age gate these products and make sure, just like alcohol, just like tobacco, just like everything else, that it doesn't get hands of the children. But this definition clearly included those things when they wrote it.
Thank you, Michael. And now it sounds like Yarrow and Todd have to switch their positions on this topic.
Well, I think we have different definitions of loophole. I think that what Michael is talking to is the clear and unambiguous language in the bill, and what we're talking to is a legislative intent. We do not believe that when they did the farm bill, that the people who were signing, whether they were informed, underinformed, or not informed at all, intended for intoxicating cannabinoids to have a non-regulated or underregulated supply chain that allowed for non-age gated access.
I'm not buying
A
it.
loophole is how all these people do their taxes.
Yep.
Well, a loophole is creating a whole business based on Delta 9 being below 0.3%, right?
Yeah.
So they're not testing their Delta 9. They're taking the THCA, they're converting it in a lab, making it intoxicants, and that's the loophole that they're exploiting.
What are they converting? They're not converting THCA in a lab.
No, they're converting CBD.
They're converting CBD into Delta 9.
It's not a loophole.
So is that a derivative
Delta
extract?
Well, it's a secondary extraction process. So it's not.
Oh, so it's an extraction process?
Todd, please play chemist.
Yeah.
Includes all derivatives
I see
and
what you're
extracts.
doing, Michael. I see what you're doing. You're setting the trap.
No, listen, we're not suggesting that the language isn't clear. We're suggesting that the legislators weren't clear on what that language was going to allow for.
Right.
There's a difference.
Well,
it gives them the opportunity to go make products, right, that are dangerous for kids, right? Aren't you against that?
Not
Protect the kids, right?
There's far other products that are made that are far dangerous to kids than these are.
I agree.
Yeah, like lead paint and asbestos.
Guns and knives.
Mm-hmm.
and realistically, you look at any of the calls to poison centers throughout the country, the majority of them are still for bleach and crap under the counters, dishwasher tabs and stuff like that, and not for edibles.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Fair enough. And on that,
I agree with you. I agree that it's not dangerous, right? But the manufacturers of these products are exploiting the loophole.
they're not exploiting the loophole. That's ridiculous.
That says everything has to be below 0.3%.
It's not an exploitation, bro. It's not exploitation if you're compliant. No, it's not. If you have compliant product, it's compliant product.
Exploiting doesn't have to be bad, Jay.
How you say it, it is. It always is.
They are using the plain language of their definition
Exactly.
that our federal government made for Congress to create the products that they think they can.
This is why definitions matter, Todd.
Legislators are against these products, and all of these politicians are against these products.
Todd,
they don't want the loophole exploited.
Todd, this is why definitions matter, and it's not a loophole. And on that, we're gonna roll into a commercial, and we're gonna be right back. We are back, you guys.
Sounds like a loophole to me.
Oh man!
Damn you, Todd. Be sensitive. I'm crying on the inside.
I have some other interesting. Hope you guys are ready to get mad, because they're trying to say that inhaling marijuana is associated with the increased odds of developing asthma. Any of you guys develop asthma ever from smoking weed?
Oh,
I think it's total bullshit or whatever. Yeah.
No.
If you're looking to reduce your chances for developing lung disease, say experts at UC San Francisco, then it may be smart to avoid inhaling cannabis. A new study in the Journal of General Internal Medicine found that inhaling marijuana every day is associated with a 44% increased chance of developing asthma. It also increased the odds of developing chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, by 27%. The COPD risk may be understated, and since the disease takes decades to develop and the researchers did not have detailed information on how long people in the study had been using cannabis. In defining the concept of inhaling, the researchers including smoking, vaping, and so-called dabbing, which involves breathing in the vapors of concentrated marijuana. The study found an association between elevated risks to a person's lungs and doing any of those things with cannabis, even for those who had never smoked cigarettes. For this group, inhaling marijuana every day was linked to a 51% increased likelihood of developing asthma. The association with COPD was also elevated, but it was not statistically significant. The study is the largest yet to examine the association between inhaling cannabis and risk to respiratory health among people who have not smoked cigarettes. Of the 380,000 adult participants, nearly 222,000 had never smoked tobacco. The data comes from the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System and a national survey by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And experts say the broad legalization of marijuana across much of the country and the perception that it is healthier than tobacco has led people to minimize the risks. The message about smoking tobacco being bad for you has gotten out there, but for cannabis, it's much less clear, said Allison Rustigi, MD, PhD, assistant professor at UCSF and first author of the paper. She says, if you people are looking to reduce their likelihood of developing a chronic lung disease, they should start using cannabis, she said. And if they already smoke cannabis, they should do it less often. I think that's total ridiculousness. And all of a sudden, these lung diseases weren't popping up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when people were smoking, and the weed was a lot more contaminated then than it is now. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I think what OG Grandma 420 wrote in the chat about taping a prescription of albuterol to your bong is probably the funniest thing I've ever read in my entire life.
Hey, you know, our chat is lively. Our chat is lively today, as usual.
You know, the chat's fire.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget to spend enough time enjoying it in real time, and then I'm robbing myself of the joy of being on the show. Here's the thing. I think like there's two camps. I think there's people who are so pro cannabis that they refuse to acknowledge that there could be any health risks associated with cannabis use, and they just want to have blinders on and they don't want to talk about it because they've spent too many decades not in a world in which there was no acknowledgement of the medical and therapeutic benefits of cannabis. So they don't want to hear about any risks. And then the second thing for me is often for me, it's always about like, how big is the study? Was it double blind? Was it over a long enough period of time? Did they solve for variables like pesticides or other contaminants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I don't have enough information to be informed. I think it's reasonable to think that there could be some risk associated with smoking and inhalation. We could all cite that UCSF study that says otherwise. What I really appreciate about the way that you cover the news, Jason, is your Seth MacFarlane-like way of adding these voice intonations when you're quoting people.
I'm glad you like that, Yarrow.
Some people just say quote unquote. You actually like channel these personality types, which I think is fascinating. Ladies, I bet Jason is incredibly exciting on a date. If you just have him read some stuff, like you see the full spectrum of all of his personalities and his ability to channel, like almost like those mediums who like their eyes roll back in their head and then they channel like dead people.
I should have been one of those
in real time. I think it's reasonable to think there might be some health risks, and I don't know that that really changes how society ideally interacts with the plant, meaning let's make sure it's an adult age-gated product. Let's make sure that it's accessible. Let's make sure that there's more brick and mortar. Let's make sure that it's affordable. Let's make sure that it's not taxed like a sin product. And let's make sure that people who want to enjoy it instead of alcohol or opiates can enjoy it in a recreational manner without feeling like they have to hide something. And so if there's a risk of asthma, there are a lot of products that people take where there is a risk, and where people make adult decisions about risk to reward. And so do I think that an article like this is going to change that for human behavior in the next generation, or that it should? Probably not. Probably not. I think there are a lot of other riskier things that people do, especially in what they eat and how they consume other products. I think even if true, a little bit of asthma is not a reason why cannabis doesn't deserve to be continued to be normalized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with you, Yarrow. There's got to be some sort of detrimental symptoms to your health from smoking, something lit on fire into your lungs, right? There's got to be some kind of bad things happening. Now, it's not as bad as cigarettes. It's not as bad as cigars. It's not as bad as other things. But it just makes sense. And you're right. All of us, marijuana purists, right? We say, no way, it doesn't. But let's be real. I mean, how many dirty bongs have you smoked out of? How many rolling papers that weren't hemp paper have you smoked?
Well, first of all,
black market bags of weed have you smoked that were riddled with pesticides?
I think rolling papers. I think rolling papers are probably better to smoke out of than hemp papers. Personally, that's just my personal thought on it.
Bleached rolling papers.
Yeah, I think they're better. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Because bleach is so good for you, right?
Bleach is great, bro.
Jason bleaches his rolling papers by putting it in his back pocket before his spa services.
It works great. You know what I mean? Especially the dentists love it.
He likes to whitewash everything.
Oh God, I knew you were going to go there, Todd.
Look, I think the industry and customers should be prepared for an increasing drumbeat of potentially negative health effects from cannabis use, as the ability for this country to study cannabis hopefully increases. And I would bet a body part that if we are allowed to study this plant a bit more freely, with more funding and a lack of impediments at the federal level that still exist, that the amount of potentially positive medical benefits from cannabis are probably going to outpace 10-to-1 the potential health risks that we will also discover. Like, if you look at any medication, there's
like Tylenol, for instance,
a list of potential bad effects. I mean, all you got to do is turn on the TV, and whatever prescription drug they're promoting, at the very end of it, it says may cause anal bleeding and brain rupturing. And, there's this nice music over the top of it. And you see these people dancing samba in the street while it's a carnival. And you're like, not supposed to pay attention to those negative side effects. So do I think there could potentially be some negative side effects with cannabis? Yeah, great. Do I want to dismiss the science? No. Does it change the fact that we still have people being jailed in this country for weed? No. Do we still need to have a recreational program that includes home grow in all 50 states? Yes. Are we there yet? No.
So
you're just having a conversation with yourself. You're asking yourself the questions and then answering them yourself.
That's because I don't have the Seth MacFarlane voices to be able to.
Yeah. Yarrow needs some more personality, apparently. Or personalities. This is my thought of it is, I wonder if all these people that developed these different that said, I wonder how many of them were from a family that were predisposed to developing emphysema or lung cancer or COPD, because I think that has a lot to do with it right there. Then I also wonder how many of these people were like big dabbers when dabbing first came out, because like prior to any legalization, there was a lot of dirty stuff that everybody was dabbing and whatnot. And I think maybe dabbing would possibly have a higher probability of being damaging to the lungs as opposed to actual smoke. And I'm going to say this mainly because when you dab and inhale those vapors or whatnot, those molecules are smaller and actually get deeper into the lungs and inside your capillaries than what smoke molecules do. And I think that might be one of the causes of it. But I'm not a doctor.
You have played one on.
But I did, yes, I do have a jacket on.
I'll just say I mostly agree with what Yarrow said, and I think it really depends on the person, right? How every person is made depends on how any food affects them, how, any substance that we use affects them in a positive or negative way. Exactly that. And I think these studies are so hard to create causation versus there may be this person has this who does this, but the actual causation of it, just like the gateway drug that they were spewing for years, it has now pretty much been debunked over and over again, doesn't cause people to go on to harder drugs, doesn't cause these things. So I think Jason's probably correct in that part. That are these people predisposed to it? Are these people exercising? They sit on their butt every day, so of course, potentially, not have clean lungs and not, doing anything else to keep themselves clean in other ways. What kind of foods are they eating? I think all of those things have an impact on our system and how any of these substances affect us.
I would agree with that, but I would agree with that. Everything you guys just said, but we have to admit, right, that fucking smoke that is lit on fire into your lungs may have some negative effect.
Well, yeah, of course. You standing next to the forest fire it's not going to be good for your lungs, Todd.
All right, so if that is bad for you,
it's a totally different type of smoke, though, Todd.
For you?
It's a totally different type of smoke.
Look, I'm a long time 40-year, 50-year pot smoker. So
but you smoke cigars, Todd.
I definitely smoke cigars.
Yeah.
But I'm completely, knock on wood, healthy. You don't inhale cigars, right? You inhale weed, right?
That's what Monica Lewinsky said.
Oh, come on. You can't preside over a sex scandal with this president and that unreleased.
I totally can, without a doubt.
What did Stormy say? What did Stormy say?
Without a doubt, I can. Without a doubt, I can.
Little mushroom dick.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I mean, I think the Republican moral high ground when it comes to sexual scandal left when this president was elected the first time.
No, the interesting thing is, I don't think the cannabis company has known this stuff for years, and they hid it forever from people.
No,
like tobacco did.
Tobacco.
Right. So, let's all get where we are here. And the position is this: just like any substance that is legal in this country, we should be able to use it. We should have as much information as we can about it so that we know how bad it is for us or how good it is for us, and make that personal choice and have freedom. They didn't tell us. I mean, isn't it just now that RFK's coming out telling us how bad corn syrup is and stuff like that?
I mean, we've known that.
It's okay. It's in every food we have.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous, the hypocrisy of these people.
You're right about that.
And the acetamina, the Tylenol.
Right?
Tylenol.
Acetaminophen.
Hey, when I was a kid, you can get ephedrine everywhere.
Say it.
Well, Troy Lawrence in the chat, he says, yeah, I see what it did to Michael Phelps. He's, you know what I mean? I think that's a perfect example because that is underwater.
Well, it's not a perfect example because he's a world-class athlete. And he trains every single day, unlike any other human on the planet.
But Todd, practice makes perfect, bro. And if you train,
I agree with that.
If you train with your bong every day, it's going to make you perfect at that too.
Athlete, unlike 99.9% of the rest of the population.
I don't know. I'm a world-class athlete, Todd, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It goes back to the question: do you have to be a world-class athlete, or do you just have to exercise sometimes?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be a world-class athlete to go run a mile a couple times a week, right? And then clean out your lungs. So
I hear you. I said it before. I'll say it again. I smoke weed every single day. I have zero lung problems. I don't have COPD. I don't have asthma. I do exercise. I do eat healthy. And, you're right. It's all about, how you do things to yourself. But to blatantly say with the utmost certainty that pot does not cause any kind of lung problem is just stupid.
You do have TDS, though, Todd.
No, I don't have TDS. You have TDS.
No.
I believe everything this Tylenol eating, raping Ellen says.
You guys are funny.
I agree with that.
I think you're just too embarrassed to realize that everything he's doing is bad for the country.
Well, you guys are funny. And Nick Bradley, he says in the chat, he says that his doctors, his lung doctor says that weed's not that bad. And so on that, we're going to roll into Mr. Michael Minardi. He's an attorney out of the great red state of Florida. He's been helping patients, caregivers, cannabis industry businesses and the hemp people as well navigate the complex regulations and business landscape in the political sphere in the great red state of Florida. And you can find him at his own law office at Minardi Law. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
And good morning, everybody on the East Coast, and happy high noon on everyone on the on the West Coast. East Coast, West Coast, wrong coast today. That's okay. So, you know, Irvin Rosenfeld, who has smoked tons of joints, been getting them from the federal government, even that crappy weed, has never had any lung problems either. So let's just talk about that. My issue is exciting, I guess. Federal agency issues updates on marijuana banking trends as Trump weighs rescheduling. Federal officials have released updated data on the number of banks reporting that they will work with marijuana businesses, and most financial institutions don't seem especially concerned with their cannabis clientele. FinCEN, with a financial crimes enforcement network which falls under the U.S. Department of Treasury, has published data for years about suspicious activity reporting, SARS reports, related to marijuana-related businesses. This latest batch shows relatively stability in the willingness of banks to service cannabis clients even under federal prohibition. But notably, the portion of SARS identified as marijuana limited stands at 80%. That term refers to cannabis businesses that appear to be operating in compliance with state law and meet agencies' operating standards for being serviceable under existing federal guidelines, as opposed to marijuana priority or marijuana termination, which indicate potential violations on account closures. There have been numerous calls to FinCEN to update decades-old guidance on cannabis banking policy amid ever-growing state legalization movement. That hasn't happened, but even so, financial institutions have been increasingly willing to work with the industry over recent years. As the first quarter of the 2024 fiscal year, FinCEN reported that there were 816 banks and credit unions serving cannabis businesses. That's slightly down from its peak of 831 in the second quarter of the same fiscal year, but it's significantly higher than during the early years of legalization when the agency started collecting this data. This comes amid ongoing push from bipartisan lawmakers in Congress to enact legislation protecting banks that works with state-licensed marijuana businesses. While there's limited movement on the reform so far this session, the industry is holding out hope that a pending proposal to more broadly reschedule cannabis could move the needle and normalize cannabis banking for the sector. FinCEN has taken a much more detailed approach to its cannabis banking reporting. In recent years, compared to when it first started posting data now, providing insights about the types of SARS it has received and which states they come from. The agency spreadsheets now look back retroactively over a 10-year period, dating back to the initial issuance of cannabis banking guidance in 2014 during the Obama administration. State-by-state breakdowns of the data reveal widespread disparities between the number of marijuana-related reports being filed by institutions and markets across the country. For example, California led the pack, with banks and credit unions filing 3,812 SARS reports in ending December 2024 quarter. Oklahoma, which has a medical marijuana system that's allowed a massive proliferation of dispensaries, came in second with 2,735. Colorado, the first state to enact adult use, has a relatively lower SARS number with 735 reports filed, and Oregon had 424 SARS. And it goes on, has a chart about a number there, but it's highlighted by the Canalaw Bog from firm Harris Salisky. One of those things that stands out is the portion of SARS that were categorized as marijuana limited. The attorney said effectively that means that the financial institution is saying, hey, FinCEN, here's a marijuana transaction, and the agency is doing jack all about it. The state-based numbers are not a reflection of the number of banks that work with the industry or the number of cannabis businesses within a given jurisdiction, as one bank could file multiple reports and some SARS are, to note, a termination of services. It is also the case that different financial institutions may have varying interpretations of FinCEN guidance with respect to when they need to file reports about marijuana industry clients. FinCEN first provided financial sector guidance in 2014 that's meant to help banks navigate the cannabis space while the plant remains federally prohibited. But advocates, stakeholders, and lawmakers across the aisle have made clear that more needs to be done to normalize the sector and provide banks with insurance. There's still significant reluctance within the bank sector when it comes to working with businesses that involve a Schedule I controlled substance, and that's reflected in the relatively low number of depository institutions that actually file the guidance and take on cannabis clients. there's an expectation that if President Trump moves forward with a proposal to reclassify cannabis as a Schedule III drug, as opposed to its current Schedule I classification, it could allow more banks more willing to engage within the sector. As a Schedule I classification, wouldn't federally legalize it, however, but it would let marijuana businesses take federal tax deductions they're currently barred from under the Internal Revenue Services Code, known as 280E. I think that meant to say a Schedule III classification wouldn't federally legalize it. So, to me, this is a good point. I know big time in the industry that was always an issue. I know hemp companies and stuff around the country and other banks are still having trouble sometimes with getting banking, but I think it's a step in the positive direction, and these people should be treated just like any other business in this country.
Man, why do all these people keep thinking, Michael, that all of a sudden when it goes to a Schedule III status, that they're going to get all these tax breaks, they're going to be able to export, they're going to have interstate trade? Like the level of misinformation that is going on out there is just crazy to me.
It's because they haven't taken into account that once they have 280E, they'll probably also have a federal tax as well. So that's going to be a little bit of an offset.
So, the 280E specifically does say Schedule I and Schedule II controlled substances of the Controlled Substances Act. So I think a move to Schedule III makes sense that it would, it would no longer apply.
But when you're going to have the proper licensing from the DEA and from the FDA in order to be able to achieve that.
Yeah. Well, if you believe those other things, I guess you're just as crazy to believe that. So I don't agree with that. I don't think that's even close to a possibility. So maybe so, maybe not.
Interesting.
I don't think what's a possibility that they're going to force you to get a DEA license or an FDA license.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael actually has probably the best opinion for being pro Schedule III that I've heard from anybody be able to say.
So, unless Michael's going to say that opinion right now, I had something to say about the article. I didn't know if that was like a soft setup. Michael, you want to spike that real quick, or
again, pointed to Schedule I, and they're allowing people to do it. So I think they're going to have the same type of framework that they will if they move it under Schedule III. It's still not going to be an FDA-approved drug. I don't think it'll ever be approved an FDA-approved drug. So it won't follow the same pathway that other Schedule III drugs are now required to do that are FDA approved. So that's why.
Okay.
Go for it.
I liked this article. I liked that Michael covered it. I liked the pie chart on the link in the website that allows you to see the percentage of SARS reporting on a state-by-state basis. Like the article we covered yesterday by that economics outfit out of Oregon that didn't clearly distinguish between cannabis-derived beverages versus hemp-derived beverages, and therefore the analysis wasn't as granular as I think it needs to be for the brilliant pundits on this show. I am not counting myself in that category. This pie chart doesn't distinguish between states that have legal medical and recreational cannabis versus states that have no legal medical and recreational cannabis. So a SARS report out of a state that has no legal paradigm for cannabis, in my mind, shouldn't be in the same pie chart as a report for suspicious activity under regulated state. The other thing that I think would be very helpful for people as smart as Todd and Michael is taking those percentages of suspicious activity reports and reconciling it with the size of the regulated market in those states, so that we see it as a percentage of sales volume versus just, okay, well, you have more in California than Colorado. Is it population adjusted? Because if you don't have that understanding, what do we got? We just got a pie chart that's a really cute, colorful little thing to look at, but it doesn't really give us a ton of understanding. The other thing also is it talks about the small changes year over year, quarter over quarter in cannabis banks. I don't really think that that's significant. And cannabis banking has existed for a really long time. We don't need safe banking. We don't need any action in Congress. The executive branch can change the suspicious activity reporting requirements without an act of Congress, which would drastically lower the bank compliance requirements to bank cannabis accounts, which would drastically lower the cost to cannabis entities to have a cannabis bank account. So that could all be done without everybody getting all up in their feelings about whether safe banking is going to pass for the 27th time or not. And yet we still don't see that being done. So I think there's some easy things that the executive branch could do if it wanted to be more friendly to this industry. We haven't seen that under Republican or Democratic presidents yet.
Yeah, look, you're right. There's banking everywhere, right? Cannabis companies have banks, and they have bank accounts. I think 280E is the big issue with the inability to, deduct business expenses from your taxes.
I agree that they have bank accounts, but the reality is they don't have like real bank accounts. They have like these subpar bank accounts with these high fees and whatnot. Like you can't just walk into a Chase Bank as a cannabis company and open up an account. And that's
right.
What
That's
people
Chase's decision to do that, right? Chase decides not to do that.
Well,
they go to local banks and they're happy to take cannabis.
They choose not to mitigate on that possible risk because they have too much other stuff going on.
So Jason,
right.
it's not that cannabis entities don't have access to banks. It's not that they don't have access to all banking services. It's that they pay a higher cost because there are compliance requirements because of the suspicious activity reporting compliance that the bank has to do, and that gets passed along to the customer. What cannabis entities can't access is small business administration, small business loans, access to conventional business credit at conventional cost of funds. And so, I think when we talk about banking, most people think about banking not just in terms of deposits and financial transactions, but access to credit. And that's the part that's missing and is probably more important and would do more to support the industry in normalizing costs and creating some margins for entrepreneurs is being able to just access business capital.
Well, the thing about it though, Yarrow, is that a lot of these small accounts or these small business or these small banks or whatnot, they charge these insanely high minimum balances that people have to maintain in their account on a regular basis, and that just it doesn't make a lot of sense when in a cash-strapped industry, and this is why we need safe banking.
Well, you'd rather have your money in a bank than have your cash and your strap, right? Like there's
I'm good with cash in a strap. I'm good with cash in a strap.
There's a lot of benefit to being able to put it in a bank and not be responsible for cops and robbers or whatever is going to happen, a forest fire or who knows what. I think when we talk about the cost of cannabis banking, the cannabis industry is used to being treated like a piñata and everybody's taking a stick and hitting it for a little piece of candy to come out that they get to benefit from. Yes, there are exorbitant cannabis costs that the industry has borne that are unfair and not justified. The increased cost of banking cannabis bank accounts is a cost that banks need to be able to pass along to their customer, their cannabis customer, in order to make a margin, stay in business, and have a profit. So if we can reduce the regulatory requirements to the financial institutions, they can pass some or all of that savings along to their cannabis clients, their customers, and reduce those banking fees. But even my little bank account in Bank of America, which is just a regular little bank account, there are minimum deposit requirements. And if I drop below that every month, there's a little fee. So that model that you're talking about isn't inherently something that's unjust for cannabis banks or bank accounts or cannabis customers.
There's a big difference between thousands of dollars as your minimum balance and like $100 as your minimum balance, Yarrow. There's a big difference.
Sure.
And $100, $1,000 service fees per month versus $15.
Exactly.
Well, cannabis companies make so much money though, so they got all that money just rolling around, right?
Oh, Todd, I know, Todd. That's what I'm saying. Digipath Labs makes so much money.
Labs do not. Trust me when I tell you.
There we go. Exactly my point.
I was being sarcastic. No, of course they don't have the money, but look, it's a banking is available, right? So let's not say it's not available because it is
very available.
It's not as available as it should be. Yeah.
And you definitely have to find the bank. I mean,
definitely do. That's right.
We got
the bank can refuse service to anybody, can't they?
Yeah. We got denied as an OG legacy insurance company. to provide bank insurance to cannabis companies from Wells Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a media company, and it was denied banking, so I totally get it.
I've had
but hold on, Todd. You have one other thing going on for you, and that's the fact that you're in Vegas, and Vegas is probably the hardest place it is to obtain a bank account in the first place because they have such different anti-money laundering laws because of the high amounts of that happens out there due to casinos and some of the other industries that exist in Las Vegas.
Look, my cannabis company has 2 bank accounts. Right, we have 2 because if one gets shut down, we have another one.
Yeah,
right. But we have 2, so.
All right. Well, on that,
you got to find it, but it is available.
On that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
Yeah, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And if you have not already, make sure that you check out our 9/11 special featuring Congressman Kurt Weldon and Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. We go over all of the things that actually really did happen leading up and on the day of 9/11.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Ah, yes, and we are back, and we are going to roll right into Mr. Yarrow Kubrin, who apparently does banking. He does cannabis real estate, and of course, you're going to need a bank if you expect to be able to get any of that cannabis real estate money. Coming to you live from the Shire, from a little, a hole in the ground. It is none other than Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Good morning, High at 9 News viewers. My article is hot off the press today from MJ Biz Daily. U.S. cannabis business licenses slow in the second quarter by Andrew Long. The number of active cannabis businesses licenses in the United States fell by 2% in the second quarter of 2025. The decline from 37,000 and change continues a multi-year contraction that began in 2022 following an initial boom. Over the past 2 years, the number of active licenses nationally has dropped about 13%, reflecting consolidation in mature markets and slower growth in newer ones. Despite a brief period of stability earlier this year, a combination of declining approvals and fewer new applications is driving the ongoing cautious turn in cannabis business expansion. What we are witnessing is the great rationalization of the American cannabis industry, said Steve Kemmerling, CEO of CRB Monitor. The boom of initial licensing has subsided. The market is now ruthlessly shedding excess capacity, he said. This is a painful but necessary phase that will ultimately create a more stable and sustainable foundation for future growth. Approval and pending licenses, considered a pipeline for future operations, plunged 14% from 4,300 and change the previous fourth quarter, with a consecutive decline. The total was down 18% from the end of 2024 and 23% from a year earlier. Pre-licensing applications also fell 4%. That's a 16% drop from 6 months ago and a 22% drop from the mid-2024 levels. Despite this overall slowdown, New York remained the country's most active market for applications, representing about 90% of the applications nationwide. Nearly 5,000 applicants were awaiting decisions at the end of June, underscoring how the Empire State continues to drive national licensing activity, even as other regions cool. The story of U.S. cannabis markets right now is the story of New York, he said. And it's an unprecedented application volume, is an outlier that skews the national picture, meaning we'd get much more dismal stats if New York was stripped out of that. While it represents immense future potential, he said, it also highlights how stagnant application activity has become in other states, including former hotspots. Cultivation and retail licenses, which make up nearly 3/4 of the U.S. market, were largely flat. Cultivation permits dipped 2% to about 16,000 and change, while retail stood unchanged at a little under 12,000. California, Oklahoma, Michigan, and Oregon accounted for almost half of these licenses. Manufacturing and distribution licenses contracted more sharply, falling about 5% each to about 5,500 and 1,500 respectively. Vertically integrated operators, businesses holding multiple license types, have grown the fastest, more than doubling over 2 years to more than 2,200. Still, the category slipped 4% in the quarter, with most of the growth attributed to reclassification of existing licenses in New Mexico rather than new business creation. While most license categories contracted, social use clubs, odd word of consumption lounges for the rest of us, emerged as a bright spot. The number of licensed cannabis consumption venues rose 18% to 80 nationwide, a fourfold increase in the past year. States such as Colorado, New Jersey, Nevada, and Michigan rolled out consumption programs. There's been a sharp decline in new approvals. I could continue to spout out the rest of these numbers, but I think you guys get the main point of this article. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
You know, Yarrow, I'm surprised that they're saying that it's only a 2% dip overall, because I thought it would be much higher than that.
Well, again, it talked about New York being the outlier. It talked about a greater amount of consolidation in distribution and manufacturing. And while the consumption lounges don't represent a huge figure, and the reason why we're seeing a big uptick in that is because most of these programs didn't have consumption lounges in the initial phase of the licensing process. So the government's adapting and people are participating in that. But I think those numbers would be a lot worse if we stripped out New York.
I mean, I think they would be more reflective. I mean, I'm surprised that that they didn't include all of the licenses that have to relocate in New York, because then I think you would have got a better you know, a better view of what this story is really all about. And I think them skewing it up to represent 2%, I think, is kind of disingenuous. It's kind of like the numbers that we were covering on the show yesterday, where we were like, oh yeah, sure. You know, I'm not buying a lot of these numbers. I think it's much more dire situation than what it says. You know, you may have some other states that are going online and creating new licenses in different smaller municipalities and whatnot, and that may be filling the void for other longer term licenses that have been issued and that are going under. But it's not a great situation.
So, you know, we have consumption lounges in Florida, not necessarily called that, and they're not licensed. Based on, you know, what my interpretation of the law, it says they're not required to allow public smoking. So a private entity, and we have multiple private entities in the state that have areas in their kava kratom bars or things like that they set aside for patients to go in and use cannabis. They have to bring their own, so there's no purchases or anything there like there are in some other states. But you know, there's a few here in the state of Florida that I'm sure aren't even considered in any of these things.
Interesting. You have any thoughts on this, Todd? I mean, you guys lost a whole bunch of consumption lounges in Nevada. They threw in the towel.
I mean, my thoughts are, you know, who's going to these? You guys ever been to a consumption lounge?
Yeah. I'll go there and I'll order a coffee. You know, pull out my own weed.
Look, I don't think they're very popular. I don't think that they're doing much for the industry. The only time I would ever go to one is if it was if I was bringing somebody from out of town to see one who's never seen one, or for a meeting, right? But I just don't understand the concept of the lounges and how they monetize and how they, you know, do anything really. So I just think it's a wasted license, in my opinion.
Well,
I think it's a way to normalization. The one I thought Planet 13's was awesome. You know, just to be able to go in and order stuff and get stuff a la carte and, you know, be able to use in a situation like that. And I think we need to normalize it more so more people can do that and eventually maybe get into bars and have it the same as smoking cigarettes and things like that. Because really, we got to bring those communities together and allow adults to be able to do this instead of, you know, people getting tickets in the street because they have nowhere to smoke. They can't smoke in their hotel, but then you know, do we want to help these businesses and sell product or not? It's just, to me, it's ridiculous, and I think it's something that really has to change. I hope more states get more and more liberal with the ideology of it and the licensing of it and stuff like that. I think is ridiculous.
I think you make a good point, and I agree with you. I think it does do something for the normalization of being able to light a joint, right? And like you said, you were on vacation, you were in Vegas, right? You wanted to go smoke somewhere, and you didn't want to do it in your rental car or your hotel room. So, you know, and it was more of an event, and you know, then you just, oh, let me go smoke a joint. I'm going to run over to the lounge real quick.
You know, and I will say this, that they do provide a valuable service for people that live on government-assisted housing, like Section 8 and things like that, because they actually aren't allowed to consume at their own home. And
all of them are going to a lounge and spending $15 for a joint.
Yeah, there's
look, Todd. So
Section 8 section.
Hold on a second, because I know, like during the LA fires and things like that, all the lounges in West Hollywood opened up all their doors to everyone in the community to give them a safe place to smoke. And so, I'm not saying that's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Well, we haven't leveled the resource playing field until people can go in a consumption lounge without having to buy from that consumption lounge, right? Like if you really are down to your last dollar, you know you're living in high density subsidized housing, you're not going to be able to go in and a la carte your cannabis and pay for a few pre-rolls and overpay because of the taxes, because of your single serving size, because you're paying for a consumption lounge experience. I mean, there's real gaps, right?
Yeah.
And no consumption lounge. I mean, first of all, I've heard the consumption lounges don't even make money, that they're just a way to drive traffic to that system.
I would agree with that. You know,
and secondly, if they don't make money, then why not just make them completely accessible to anybody? Why restrict which cannabis is smoked in them and where that cannabis comes from?
Well, I've heard from some people, and some people say that it's part of their insurance policy that they can't allow outside smoking, which I think is kind of a total cop out. But I have heard that, and you know, I you know, maybe their policy does say that. I could totally see an insurance company stating something like that. That doesn't seem out of the realm of reality. But you know, how they expect a business to be able to enforce on that is a whole nother set of ridiculousness, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not like people are cool with you walking into a bar with your own bottle.
That is true.
Or a restaurant with your own food.
Yeah, but alcohol isn't overtaxed. You know what I mean? And you know, and neither is food. And, you know, and the reality of it is that when these restaurants and bars and whatnot do start placing these higher taxes, like paying for the food workers' insurance and passing that on to the customer, they are all seeing a dip in revenues because less people are going there.
And you can bring your own bottle of alcohol to a restaurant and just pay a corkage fee. I do it all the time.
You can only do that if they don't already carry that in their establishment.
I think I have more experience bringing bottles of wine to restaurants than you do. You can pretty much show you can't.
No place is going to let you bring a bottle of wine that they already sell into the thing. It's going to need to be a bottle that they don't currently have on their menu.
I know that sounds good to you and our viewers, but that is just not true. I can show up at any restaurant with a bottle of wine.
Come down to LA and come do it, and I guarantee you can't
cross-reference their inventory.
I guarantee.
And say, I'm so sorry.
Every restaurant in LA that I know of does this, bro. Every restaurant in LA cross-references their thing before you bring in a bottle.
Yeah, that's not how it works up here in NorCal. It's
Maybe
another
not.
example of why it's better to live up here in the Shire.
Oh boy.
Are there any rules in North Cal?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
this is the land of lawlessness.
Don't drink $2 Chuck.
It's like LA on, but just spread out up there. But nonetheless, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Introducing QUX.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where am I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, yes, and we are back, and we are rolling right into Mr. Todd Denkin. Todd is a creative storyteller, a Telly Award-winning director-producer with over 35 years of extensive experience in television and film production. He's been a featured expert on various cannabis panels, TV shows, and news programs, and he has been interviewed and quoted in numerous blogs, newspapers, and magazines. And he co-authored the book Money Matters. As well, he hosts The King of Pot, available on YouTube. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Todd Denkin.
And the crowd goes wild. Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
Thank you, fellow correspondents. And hello, everybody, to everybody joining us here at High at 9. My story is a good feel-good story.
Oh, boy.
Because America's favorite governor signs a bill, roll back marijuana tax hike. That's right, the bill paused. Bill will pause the tax increase for 5 years in California. The governor had until October 12th to take action on any measures delivered to him this session. Matt Haney, the sponsor of the bill, said, quote, California's cannabis economy can bring enormous benefits to our state, but only if our legal industry is given a fair chance to compete against the untaxed and unregulated legal market. AB 564 helps level that playing field. It protects California jobs, keeps small businesses open, and ensures that our legal cannabis market can grow and thrive the way voters intended. The legislation will provide immediate tax relief to California's struggling cannabis industry by reversing an unprecedented 25% excise tax increase. He said on the Assembly floor earlier this month, the bill has enjoyed overwhelmingly bipartisan support in both houses. An amendment that was adopted during a prior Senate committee stop, later concurred with by the Assembly, makes it so effective date will be in October rather than immediately. Tax hike itself officially took effect last month. According to Brian Camire, who's the chief legal counsel of Weed Maps, he said that, quote, California's cannabis industry was thrown an important lifeline today by America's favorite governor, Governor Gavin Newsom, and as he signed AB 564. This rollback of a 25% hike in existing taxes will bring greater stability to a faltering market and disincentivize bad actors that undermine legitimate players. Governor Newsom and the bill's author, Assemblymember Matt Haney, recognize the need to act because they know a healthy cannabis industry brings jobs and tax revenue to the communities where they operate. State officials announced in June that the cannabis excise tax rate would increase from 15% to 19% on July 1st. Advocates held out hope that pending budget legislation would be amended to mirror Haney's standalone bill. That didn't come to fruition. Passage of an earlier budget bill that Haney's measure responds to came despite Newsom's support for including a tax freeze in the trailer bill. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, a Democrat, also backed the delay, but Senate President pro tempore Mike McGuire, also a Democrat, reportedly blocked it from budget legislation. Under Haney's bill, which first advanced through the Assembly in June, the delayed implementation won't take effect until October. Advocates wanted to see it included in the separate recently enacted budget legislation because it would have taken effect upon enactment. For arriving in the Senate Appropriations Committee, the legislation's pause of the cannabis tax increase would have been in effect until June 30th, 2030. After that, a biennial basis, regulators would adjust the tax rate by a percentage that will generate an amount of revenue that would not have been collected pursuant to the cultivation tax imposed prior to its discontinuation, as specified not to exceed 19%, according to the summary. The Appropriations Committee, however, moved to shorten the period that the 15% tax rate would be in effect and add a reporting requirement, according to the chair. Haney's proposal will make it so the California Department of Tax and Free Administration, working with the Department of Finance, would be required to, quote, adjust the cannabis excise tax rate upon purchasers of cannabis or cannabis products based on the additional percentage of the gross receipts of any retail sale by a cannabis retailer that the department estimates will generate an amount of revenue equivalent to the amount that would have been collected in the previous fiscal year. What? The department will need to estimate the amount of revenue that would have been collected in the previous fiscal year pursuant to the weight-based cultivation tax, and estimate this amount by projecting the revenue from weight-based cultivation taxes would have been collected in the previous calendar year based on information available to the department. Oh, well, that clears it up. State officials announced in June that the cannabis excise tax would increase from 15% to 19%, and that didn't come into fruition. Passage of an earlier budget that Haney's measure responds to came despite Newsom's support for including the tax freeze in the trailer bill. The department will need to estimate, like I said, the amount by projecting the revenue from weight-based cultivation taxes that would have been collected the previous year. It's just so strange, but great news for cannabis cultivators. I'm Todd Denkin with High 9 News, and what do you think about America's favorite governor canceling these taxes? Jason, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I can't believe that he finally actually did something, but hold on though, Todd, you're calling it a cancellation of the taxes, and even you stated it's not a cancellation of the taxes, it's a 5-year pause. This should have been a total elimination of this tax, not just a 5-year pause. Basically, all he did was kick the can down the road for 5 years, and not to mention, people have been paying this tax since July. And there's no reimbursement from July through September, and so that's totally ridiculous. Also,
never good enough, is it?
It's not. No, it's not. It's not, because I know what is good enough, and we need to eliminate all of these ridiculous taxes and government overreach, and that's what the Democrats are really the best at is overtaxing things out of existence. But I am going to give him credit for signing it. I am going to give him credit for signing that. I do, the industry does need it. It's better late than never. But at the same time, I'm still going to be
politics, though.
I'm still going to be cynical.
Very typical politics to the can down the road and let other people deal with it 5 years from now. So, look, it's a great thing for all cannabis in California, and certainly for the cannabis consumer. Well, I say mazel tov.
I think it's fantastic. I wonder if people are going to actually drop their prices now that they've already had to raise them.
They're going to put money in a pocket now. They've already raised the prices. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they've already raised the prices. People are already paying it. You know what I mean? It's so troubling.
So they've raised the prices. People are already paying it. So they just, like, when you go in there, they just have a total price with tax.
Yeah. Most places.
Tax?
Yeah. Most places give you just a flat total price with the taxes included. The reality is you get a lot. The taxes are so high out here, Michael, that a lot of customers get sticker shock when they see that something is only $37, and then when they go to pay for it on exit, it's like $57. And they're like, "How did that happen?" And so it's generally best if you give them the full price of what it's going to cost with all taxes included from a retail perspective to the customer.
Trump's economy.
What are you talking about? Trump's economy.
Has to blame someone.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
The taxation in the cannabis industry is ridiculous, and you know, all these people should just, again, and I say it's one of the things that Florida did correct in not taxing medical marijuana.
It's you know, but I am going to say, you know, good job, Governor Newsom. Good job. Not sure why you refer to him as the greatest governor in the country. I could think of, you know, at least 5 other ones that are better. But you know,
well, he calls himself America's favorite governor, just like Orange guy calls himself America's favorite president.
Well, of course he lies to himself. He lies to every Californian every day,
like Trump. Yeah.
Trump doesn't lie, bro.
He's mimicking your dear leader.
Trump does not lie. Stop it. Stop the ridiculousness.
They're politicians. Come on.
Yeah.
He opens his mouth, he's lying.
Trump does not lie, bro. Trump does not lie. He doesn't need to lie. You know what I mean?
Please. Right, because he's so perfect.
Oh,
he
man,
shits his pants while he walks around.
It's so good. It's so good. Todd, you're so much fun. You're so much fun, bro. I'm so glad you're here.
I've been told.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts on this amazing tax break? This is good news overall.
Keep up the good work, Gav.
He's not going to be able to keep up the good work. He's getting out of office pretty soon. He's not going to have anything to do because there's no chance of him winning a presidential bid.
Well, there you have it.
Oh, there we go. He's going to be on retirement. Maybe he's going to start a hair product company with his amazing hair. That's what he probably should do.
We know Trump can't do that.
Oh, stop.
I mean, he's got 19 other companies.
Oh,
buy his
man.
meme coin and my sneakers and my cologne. Oh, buy my steaks also. I get some Trump water. Hey.
I actually have Trump water. It's the best water. It's the best. It's the best. Trump water actually tastes better than all the other waters that I've tried.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
But nonetheless, I have one final
orange stain to it.
I have one final story for you guys, because you're going to find this interesting, Michael. Now, this story comes out of a Australia publication, but a U.S. study on medical cannabis use and driving impairment has implications for Australian lawmakers considering changes to local driving laws. In Australia, it is illegal in most states and territories to drive with any levels of detectable THC, the intoxicating cannabinoid most commonly associated with marijuana's high. This is regardless of whether the driver has been legally prescribed medical cannabis, and the problem is THC can be detected weeks after it was last consumed. But a study out of the Center for Medical Cannabis Research, better known as the CMCR, at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine, suggests that driving performance of frequent cannabis users is not impaired at least 48 hours of abstinence. This doesn't mean to say it is prior to this time frame past the initial window of impairment. It was just the absence period chosen. The researchers analyzed data from a randomized clinical trial that assessed the driving performance of 191 cannabis users who had abstained for at least 48 hours. They also looked at another comparing a subset of the most frequent users from the first study with a small comparison group of people who don't use cannabis at all. The research didn't find any relationship between driving performance, cannabis use history, or time of absence, nor blood THC concentrations. And of note in this, they say, of note, The most intensive users from the group, who mostly used cannabis daily and smoked an average of 4 joints per day, did no worse during this period of absence than a healthy, non-using comparison group, said the study's senior author, Thomas Marcotte, PhD, who is a professor of psychiatry at UC San Diego School of Medicine. In his conclusion, the researchers state that future research should explore whether short-term residual effects exist of driving performance via the use of more complex driving tasks, incorporating larger non-using control groups, and better controlling for possible confounds such as cannabis withdrawal effects. The study has been published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology, and back in 2021, researchers at Australia's Lambert Initiative for Cannabinoid Therapeutics at the University of Sydney found a window of impairment of between 3 and 10 hours resulting from moderate to high doses of THC, and it varies greatly between users. And another more recent study from the Lambert Initiative suggested little next-day impairment is experienced by insomnia patients using cannabis medicines containing THC at night, you guys. Well, I mean, have you ever woken up with a weed over? And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This 48 hours, I feel like that's a lot of time to have not smoked.
Michael, what do you have to say? He couldn't wait to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I mean, the cannabis and driving stats and studies are all over the place on this issue. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest difference becomes new users versus, regular users. And that really is how we have to start showing impairment. And I think it should be considered how it is now in like the state of Florida and others. Forget the nanogram limits. Forget that stuff. They have to prove that the person is impaired to the extent their normal faculties, are impaired.
You know what?
That's how we do it in Florida currently.
You know what I think, Michael?
They should just show up with like a bag of Doritos, and if the person asks for some, it wants them, and clearly they're high.
I think there should be an impairment test that they could do
Sure.
while they have smoked or while during smoking or whatnot, and let them drive in a simulator. And then if they do well and they pass the test, then they get like a little weed leaf on their driver's license, and then they're marked safe for cannabis consumption while driving.
So it all.
I love that idea. Actually, I love the idea. I'm sorry, Michael. I keep interrupting.
No, that's okay.
I love that idea of getting that check mark on your license, on your driver's license. Yeah. Okay to drive stone.
Yeah, green check mark, whatever. Yeah, whatever they want to do it as.
Right.
I like that.
Stamp of approval.
Mm-hmm.
I was say, the interesting thing in every cannabis driving case that I've had, and it's probably been about a half a dozen in the state over the years, from before it was legal, till after medical, and really none of them are like serious driving pattern issues, right? They usually get pulled over for something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Making a wrong turn, not using their blinker, something like slow. That. Right. But never like, you would see in a DUI, weaving, not being able to stay in their lane, excessive speed. So it really becomes very interesting as to what impairment actually is in cannabis, because technically the impairment, right, when they define it, is being different than you were unimpaired with nothing in your system.
Mm-hmm.
But with DUIs, we don't do that, right? And that's the biggest, when I go into a jury trial, it's like, well, you are allowed to smoke and drive. You can't smoke while you're driving, but you can smoke and then drive just like you can drink. You can have a few drinks and drive. And that becomes, I think, the most important issue that people have to realize. And it's about personal responsibility and people being responsible. But we're not seeing, despite some of the studies that say so, which I think most of them are based on crap science, that there's an increase in accidents as a result of people using cannabis. Is there an increase of people with cannabis in their systems? Yes, but you don't know if they're smoking that day, a week before, or a month before. Mm-hmm. So I think we need a lot of work to do on cannabis impairment issues.
Fair enough. I totally agree. I think, there's a lot of work to do. And, I mean, Michael, did you, prior to all this, the movement, so per se, how many cannabis DUI cases did you cover prior to that? They were non-existent, right?
They're still very few and far between.
It's pretty non-existent in my thing. It all just happened once regulations started kicking in, and all of a sudden it became a phenomenon.
Yeah, and honestly,
meanwhile, between 11,000 and 13,000 people die every year from drunk driving.
Mm-hmm.
I think the number's way higher than that. No.
Well, according to the Google machine.
Okay, so it's went down significantly because it used to be around 40,000.
Alcohol-impaired driving accounts for 30% of all traffic-related fatalities.
Okay.
In 2023, it was 12,429.
This is actual deaths that they're counting, though, Michael. They're not counting incidences. Correct. They're counting how many actual deaths. So I think that's why that number is so much lower than what you were referencing. But anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.